There you go. You can start.
Thank you so much, Prathamesh. Yes, congratulations to Birds of Thane and Raigad district for the completion of 10 years, and it's a pleasure to be here. And hope all of you are safe and fine. And let's jump directly into the topic of the day. Yes. So today we are going to talk about conservation beyond the protected areas. Now, for many of us who are present here, conservation has a different meaning, and for me, conservation has also its own meaning. And my journey started when I was a kid. I was in my 4th class and I had participated in a drawing competition and I won a prize, and that was the book of birds. From that day onwards, my journey of bird watching began, is what I would say. And there was a mention of bird boxes in the book. And I asked my dad, what is bird boxes? He not only told me, he had a very brief information, but what he did is he went into the market and got me a book of how to make the bird boxes and things. And a couple of years later, I made a bird box, and within 15 minutes of me hanging that box out there on the tree, a magpie robin landed on the entry and started inspecting the box. It changed something inside me, and I became a bird addict. So then I started venturing out into the forest with the help of my father, and Goa is lucky to have quite good forest area. So I was lucky on that regards. And I made friends in the forest, and there were a lot of friends I had in the forest villages. So I used to go there very often. And during one of such of my visits to the forest, a large part of the forest that I used to go to had vanished. And it changed something in me, and I sat there and I cried as a kid. And I started thinking, what is it that I can do as a person to stop the destruction that is happening out there? And as a result, I shifted into the forest during my education itself. And I shifted to a village in the forest. And after that, even as a profession, I chose to be out there in the forest. Though my education was in geology, I was out there in the forest and watching birds. And still I'm doing the same. I watch a lot of birds out there. But over the years, I saw to it that I traveled across India, spent more and more days in the forest. And I traveled right from Ladakh to Andamans. And
Pankaj, are you presenting? Because if you're presenting, we can't see your screen.
Okay. Just a minute.
Thanks, Amrita.
Thanks for that. I'll re-share the screen again.
Yeah.
Are you able to see the screen now?
Yes, I think it's loaded. Just a second.
Yes, you missed these photos in that case. Yes, this is where I was a kid, and spent many days out there in the forest. So you're able to see the screen, right?
Yes, we can see the screen.
Thank you. Yes. So this is my photographing about 12 years back. I spent time in the forest again, and this is again in the forest. I spent many years there and traveled from Ladakh to Andamans and all these places to understand what is happening out there and to witness the wildlife over there. I also saw to it that I met experts across India to understand what conservation is in depth. And this is what, to me, conservation is. If we are able to manage the natural resources sustainably, while most important is taking care of the life support systems, then that is what, to me, conservation is. After traveling around India, there were some of the observations that I made. And also, it's important to note here that only about 5% of India's geographical area is protected under the protected area network. That means 95% of India's landmass is not under protected area, and we need to do something about that. It is not that entire, a large part will be under protected area, but if we are able to work towards strengthening the conservation efforts beyond this 5%, we would have done a large part of our responsibility as citizens who are interested in the wildlife and its conservation. India is very unique because it's got large areas which are shared habitats. In spite of the huge population, the wildlife outside the protected areas still survives and thrives. However, we need to note that this wildlife is under tremendous population pressure and the ever-growing population that India has. So there comes the need of conservation beyond protected areas. Here comes the Western Ghats. This is the place where we are based. Now, why are Western Ghats important? Western Ghats support more than 245 million people in peninsular India. This support is through the rivers that originate in the forests of the Western Ghats. These are the forests that act like sponges and soak in the rainwater from the southwest monsoon. And this water is released through the streams, through the rivers, and they, of course, reach our taps, in our homes. But not only that, lot of livelihood is also dependent upon the rivers from the Western Ghats. So, water is the lifeline that connects the wildlife and the communities. Otters are one of the key indicators of the health of this water. They are the apex predators of the river ecosystem. These predators are the only semi-aquatic mammals that are found in India. Now, in India, we get 3 species of otters. Now, out of these 3 species, we get 2 species in the Western Ghats, and I'll tell you more about that later. Now, our field base of all the conservation work at present is surrounding the areas of Bhagwan Mahavir Wildlife Sanctuary. One of the important projects that we run in the area is the otter conservation project. Otters being the key indicators, attention to them is extremely important, and then they tell us a lot about what is happening to our rivers and the forest. This is the smooth-coated otter. Smooth-coated otter is largely present in bigger rivers, wider rivers, even estuaries that are present in Goa, and larger, pools of rivers very close to the Western Ghats. The second species that we get around, and especially in the streams of the Western Ghats, is the small clawed otter. Now, small clawed otter is also the smallest species of otter in the world. These are largely, they feed on crabs and shellfish, and because of their presence, the presence of the prey, which is largely nocturnal. These creatures have evolved to be nocturnal in nature in the Western Ghats. These are especially the otters that we monitor through our otter conservation project. The objectives behind the otter conservation project is to monitor the population of otters in the area, to study their behavior and adaptations. Like in the monsoons, lot of these rivers, these smaller streams get inundated with water. As a result, catching shellfish, crabs becomes quite a challenge. So what do they feed on? Like for example, one of the adaptations that we saw in the area that we work in is presence of mushrooms in the otter poop. So that is quite a unique adaptation that we are able to see. And there are many adaptations like that come in due to the presence of humans and shared habitats. Our key idea is to work towards restoring the otter habitats and also to prevent further degradation. Now for that, what do we do? First and foremost, it is important to understand what is happening in the habitat. So we are carrying out surveys in the area for last 1 year. Now, when we go out, when the team goes out and surveys the area, what is it that we look for? One of the most, the small clawed otters are extremely difficult to sight, and it is still also very difficult to even locate its presence and the signs. So the team is trained to locate these signs, and one of the important signs of the presence of otters is its excreta. We call it otter poop, and you can see a lot of crab shells, finely ground crab shells present in its otters. You also come across the regurgitated pellets of owls here, which look similar. You might have seen when you go out in the field. But look at the uniform and finely crushed crab shells in the poop. So it is like finding a poop is like otter poop is like, is rarer than sighting a tiger during a tiger safari. So it is very difficult to find an otter poop, but our team has been successful in finding more than 300 otter signs in the last 1 year. We also use camera traps to monitor the presence of otters. The team goes out and in the field and sets up camera traps in the streams, on the sides of the stream where we see otter movement. Now, otter habitat is also shared by other creatures, but look at, this is one of the footages that we have of the small clawed otters. So this is what we call as the poop dance. So the otter there is smearing the poop on the rock. They usually choose the elevated surfaces, and right now it was smearing the poop. You can also see a terrapin on the rock there. Otter habitat is shared by other creatures as well, and in the camera trap we've got the jackal over here and also a small Indian civet, you can see. So this very important activity in an otter's life is to poop together. My colleague says that the family that poops together stays together. So you'll see they spend quite a bit of their time of their life grooming, and also they pay a lot of importance to marking their territories. So you'll see the otter is taking keen interest in seeing to it that the poop is spread properly, and that's one very interesting behavior that we see. Now, we have had some very interesting findings over the year, and one of the findings is the presence of 3 families in the area. Also, what we have found is 10 dens of otters. Now, these 10 dens are shared by 3 different families, and each family has more than 1 den. So it is again extremely difficult to find a small cloud otter den, and our team has been successful in finding 10 of the dens outside the protected area, and in habitat which is shared by the community, as I said earlier, and 3 of these dens are extremely close to human habitation. Now, while doing the surveys, our attention is also to identify what the probable threats are to the otter populations. One of the important threats that we get in the area is dry waste, which is dumped into the streams. It is one of the major threats, and our team does spend time in cleaning up some of the waste there as well. The second is extensive fishing, which is carried out using the bleaching powder. Now, bleaching powder, what it does, it destroys all sorts of life in there, and as a result, displaces the family of otters. They have to move to another location because they need to look out for food, and as a result, there's quite a bit of displacement. The third threat that we have identified is extensive crab catching. Small volume of crab catching is still okay, but when it goes beyond a certain level, it poses danger, in the sense it causes the prey density to reduce, and the otter family has to move again. This is a crab trap that is created locally using shade net and sticks, and these are the rock crabs that are fed upon by the otters. Here's one of our team members clearing out the trash in the otter habitat. The second project which is happening in the area is our conservation hotspots. Now, what are conservation hotspots and why are they important? The area around the Bhagwan Mahavir Wildlife Sanctuary, where we are located, it has got many private land holdings. These land holdings are under constant threat because they want to convert it for some commercial use, or there is extensive collection of firewood, or there are some other disturbances that are there. Now, what we would like to do and what we are doing right now through the conservation hotspots is we are taking over these areas, in the sense we are convincing the local community and people from the area to protect this, and we create a model of creating financial benefit for the landlord, and that is how we are shaping our first conservation hotspot over here. Now, this is one of the prime areas of Bhagwan Mahavir Wildlife Sanctuary. This is located in Mollem. This is a satellite satellite imagery of the area, Google Map view. And now, if you see at the center of the screen, this is about 15 acres of area. At the center of the screen, you can see quite a bit of bare patches. Now, this 15 acres of forest was completely destroyed about 20 years back to create a plantation. Now, they could not proceed with the plantation. It was destroyed due to various reasons, and as a result, it was abandoned. Now, the entire forest was destroyed, and you can see the difference in this forest at the center and top of the screen. The top of the screen, it's all Bhagwan Mahavir Wildlife Sanctuary. Right on the border is this patch of forest which is completely open, and then to the south, to the lower area of the screen, there is the stream that flows. Now this conservation hotspot we are creating in order to enrich the area. Once you enrich the area, there are many animals that take benefit from it. So before that, in order to understand what is present in the conservation hotspot that we are creating, we are also doing various kinds of surveys to understand the wildlife present there. We have some of the nocturnal survey that we carry out, and during the nocturnal survey we come across various animals that are present in and around the conservation hotspot. One of the key animals that we spot is the Indian giant flying squirrel. We also spot the slender loris in the area. In addition to these, there are other animals that frequent the conservation hotspot and they are present in the surrounding area. There are mouse deers present. There is the brown palm civet, which is a very elusive animal present there, and we have detected this presence frequently. We also set up camera traps in the conservation hotspot to monitor the animals. The porcupine, you can see here. You can see a small Indian civet that has come near the camera trap, and it's near a cashew tree that we have set it up. It's picking up the fruit and going away. During the day, we get different activity, and you can also see over here one of the birds that came. We also got an Indian pitta. This is a red spur fowl that came along. We also engage in audio surveys to detect the wildlife that is present in the area. Audio surveys help us to understand many different aspects of the forest. Our focus right now is the presence of different birds and what is present overall in the area. It also helps us detect the threats in the surrounding forest and things. Now, we use audio surveys right now to detect the presence of nocturnal birds, and you can increase the volume of your computer. You might be able to hear the call. So we use the audio devices. There are autonomous recording units that we put out in the forest to monitor the wildlife. Also during the day, you get various species of birds. One of the highlights of the conservation hotspot is this Malabar trogon. This is our team planning enrichment of the habitat. There are different activities that are planned to enrich the habitat that was destroyed. And one of the important activities that we started this summer is creation of artificial water holes. Now we can also see the team members here setting up camera trap after creating the artificial water holes. You can check out the Instagram page of Planet Life Foundation to see the process of creating the water hole. And you too, if you are living by any chance around the forest areas, or if there is some wildlife you might have, or your friends might have some area that can help the wildlife, then creation of such water holes makes a huge difference. And this is what you can suggest your friends or create them yourself if you got some context around. So we were surprised to see that within 48 hours of creation of this water hole, Gaurs, came to drink water from the water hole. Now, the presence of such water holes and conservation hotspots with enriched habitats with better resources ensure long-term survival of the wildlife in the conservation hotspot itself, but also in the surrounding areas. And you'll also be able to see over here, it's a gaur and a gaur calf that has come to drink water from the water hole. Not only mammals, a lot of birds also come to take advantage of the water that's present. This is one of the rarities of the area. This is a crested goshawk, an accipitor, which is not very common, one of the highlights people come to see it. So the crested goshawk as well use the water, and there are other birds which come in. There are flame-throated bulbuls which come. There are red-tailed rongos which come to drink the water, and it's beautiful. It's nice to see. This was actually one of the very recharging moments for the entire team. It was peak summer, and then within 48 hours, magic started happening around it. It was wonderful to see that our efforts really were useful to the wildlife in the area. Now, there are different ways by which you can participate. Now, before we go there, I'll also like to tell you that these are two important projects which we run in the area. There are other projects as well. There's a project that is going on about the pit vipers. We are monitoring the pit vipers in the area to understand, their status, especially the hump-nosed pit viper. And also, we are carrying out nocturnal mammal monitoring in the area to understand what is the status of mammals in the entire region, which is outside the protected area. And if we are able to understand it better, then we will be able to create projects that can conserve these animals much better. Now, there are various ways in which you can participate. We have created opportunities in which you can participate in the work that we are doing. Now, one of the opportunities that people want to participate, young students, if you want to participate, you can participate in the internship program. We have a guided internship program in which you would be trained for 30 days and you'll be a part of the conservation work that we are doing. And there is also a conservation participation program in addition to this, in which the duration can go from 1 week to 15 days or more. And so these are the two opportunities where you can directly participate in the conservation work. The more the people learn, the better it is for extending the conservation work in your preferred areas. Now, there are also other projects that are in pipeline. One of the highly vulnerable animals in India, and I would say also globally to a certain extent, is the pangolin. We are trying to understand, under this project, we would be trying to understand the status of the Indian pangolin, as well as we are trying to understand the status of spot-bellied eagle owl. Now, these two creatures have had very erratic records in the region. There are some sightings, there are historical sightings, but we are trying to understand the current status of it because we have had very less sightings of late, and we would like to understand what is happening with these two important animals, and for which you are able to also support these projects through donations. If you wish to contribute, you can go to the website and make a contribution towards these conservation projects. Now, this is, if you would like to know more about the conservation work, you can also visit the website. This is the website, planetlifefoundation.org. You can visit it. There is more information about these projects which I've spoken about. At the same time, there is information about other projects like the Pit Viper project. And you can, of course, contact us for more details of these projects. And what I would like to also emphasize is it is important that if you have interest in wildlife and conservation, it is not that you need to be a scientist or a conservationist only. You can start as a layman, being in any profession. You can make your efforts and can make a difference out there. One of the important things in my journey I realized is the presence of a good team, a team that you can bank upon. And I'm really grateful to have a very reliable team that I am able to bank upon over the years. It does take time to create a team, but to make the impact that we want to be out there, it is very important to have a sound team. And that is something that I would definitely like to tell you guys. Also, the second part, what I would like to say is that in addition to having a team, having conservation support is important. What we do is we support these projects through our business contributions. A part of our business revenue goes into supporting these conservation projects, and that is how these projects are made possible. And in conservation projects, after practicing out conservation projects or putting them in place over the field, we realize that it is a long-term thing and you can't be impatient. You need to wait and let it take time to shape up the conservation outputs. You definitely need time to show, to see the results. So you can't be impatient with regards to the outputs, conservation outputs. And yes, this was my presentation. And if you've got any questions, any inputs, please, you can ask me. I'll be happy to answer your questions.